There is not an emergency in Chicago that requires military troops on the ground.
President Trump, we are asking for your leadership and your actions, because the people of Chicago cannot wait any longer.
It's just the back and forth about public safety in Chicago. Good morning, Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning here with the Center Square, and go to thecentersquare.com to get the latest headlines. Yesterday, the Chicago Flips Red grassroots organization held a news conference in Chicago talking about how they want President Donald Trump to come to the streets of Chicago and clean up crime and address public safety. We've been talking about this now for weeks, with President Trump signaling he would send the National Guard in, but then we get an announced DHS operation, Midway Blitz, that's focused on immigration. All of that while for months in the Trump administration fully anticipated there was going to be enhanced immigration enforcement. You got Tom Homan, who's said for months, since day one, they're going to flood the zone, and they're going to focus on sanctuary jurisdictions with ICE officers on the ground, because sanctuary jurisdictions don't cooperate with federal law enforcement when it comes to immigration law, especially in a state like Illinois. We've got the Trust Act, we've got the Way Forward Act, two laws that essentially prohibit state and local law enforcement from not just not cooperating with federal immigration enforcement when it comes to civil detention orders. They'll cooperate with them on criminal detention orders, but not civil detention orders. But you've also got the law going even further to where local and state police can't even inquire about somebody's immigration status. So those are obviously some things that the federal government has tried to sue in court, hasn't worked. So the interesting, space of public safety involving the immigration enforcement aspect as well in all of this. But Chicago Flips Red's founder, Zoe Lee, they talked about the importance of getting some help from the Trump administration and ensuring that there's public safety in the areas of Chicago where it desperately needs it.
President Trump acknowledged Chicago and our pleas for his help. More than 200 people have been shot. We've seen carjackings, robberies, even luxury stores looted in broad daylight. Young shooters are bold enough to post up at police headquarters. We are in the middle of an education crisis, a mental health crisis, and above all, a crisis of leadership. We need federal intervention. We need the IRS Criminal Division, DOJ, FBI, and an independent forensic audit of every dollar supposedly spent on crime prevention and homelessness. And yes, we need the military. What's happening here is nothing less than genocide in our communities. President Trump, I am pleading, come to Chicago, come to Illinois. Help us save our city before it's too late. Charlie Kirk once said, gun deaths are worth it to keep the Second Amendment. He's right, because our right to defend ourselves is non-negotiable. Like him, I love this country. I will speak the truth and stand my ground. And if necessary, I'm willing to give my life for my country, for what is right and for what makes sense.
Again, Chicago Flips Red, grassroots group that's come up and they've addressed the Chicago City Council time and again about their concerns of public safety and wanting a forensic audit of Chicago, and upset about the public resources going to non-citizen immigrants versus going to areas of the city of Chicago they say need the funding. And then you had another member of Chicago Flips Red, Danielle Carter Walters, address the crowd, opening up actually, and bringing people to that news conference.
Some people told us we should postpone this press conference, but we know better. We remember when President Trump almost got assassinated and they wanted him to postpone his rallies. Not only did he not do it, but he told us to fight. And we refuse to let evil win. This is between good and evil. No, make no mistake about this. Violence and fear are the tools that corrupt and the lawlessness used to try to silence us. And silence has gotten us nowhere. Silence is what has allowed crime to explode, corruption to spread, and our communities to suffer. We will not be silenced anymore. We are tired of Governor Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson standing in front of these cameras and claiming to speak for the citizens of Chicago and Illinois. Let's be clear. They do not represent us.
Yes, amen. Not at all. Yes.
The people deserve their own voice. And that is exactly what we are here to give them today. President Trump, we are asking for your leadership and your actions because the people of Chicago cannot wait any longer.
So that was yesterday. There you can see the skyline of the city of Chicago. Behind them, Chicago Flips Red, a grassroots group, and they have been making all kinds of media rounds and addressing their concerns about the public safety issues in Chicago. But earlier this week, Governor J.B. Pritzker, he said that there's not, this emergency that needs the federal government using the National Guard to come in and clean up.
There is not an emergency in Chicago that requires military troops on the ground. And so I hope he does not send them into any other American cities, because I do not think if there is not an emergency or an insurrection that anyone in this country deserves to have their city invaded by military troops led by the President of the United States.
And he also went on to talk about how what he wants is, more FBI, DEA, ATF. He seems to not want more immigration and customs enforcement officers, but the other federal agencies, the governor said that he wants. He also says that Illinois needs to get more federal tax dollars for violence intervention programs.
So I would love it if he would restore funding for police, would restore funding for violence interruption programs, which we are the best in the country at, I might add. But it seems like he likes to defund police and then complain about crime.
And the governor's office released a news statement yesterday talking about how much money's gone into violence and intervention programs. $375 million. The Illinois Office of Firearm Violence Prevention has invested, they say, in violence interruption. So the governor, he took part in a roundtable discussion with the Office of Firearm Violence yesterday, talking about the funds for violence prevention programs. Look at that. So you've got, the money situation here, obviously, at play. It takes resources to have people on the streets and to, conduct public safety. But again, the governor says that, there's not an emergency. They just need more money for violence intervention programs. And these are grants that go to, community nonprofit type groups. And he says that the Guard's not needed, but he's also not convinced that the Guard won't be used by Trump.
I'm not convinced that we're not going to see military troops on the ground. We don't know. I mean, I wish the president would, again, recognize that military troops in American cities are something that just doesn't belong. And he should not be ordering them into American cities. Again, civilian law enforcement, please, would love the help, and restore the funding that helps us reduce crime.
More to come on all of this, obviously, with Illinois having been making national news with the back and forth between Governor J.B. Pritzker and President Donald Trump, while you've got people who live in Chicago saying that they need help in their communities for public safety. All right, it's Illinois in Focus Daily on this Friday. Get the headlines in your inbox. Go to thecentersquare.com.